In January, Intel launched the 12th Gen Core mobile processor, i9-12900H. ROG Strix Scar 6 is chosen for our first test. The great thermals and performance has left a deep impression on me. Usually, the Intel mobile processor is upgraded once a year, so I thought it has made its curtain call. But Intel played a wild card this year. 3 months after the launch of new processor, Intel announced an enhanced i9-12950HX. From the way it's named, we can learn that this processor has higher specs and supports overclocking. And the gaming laptop we review today has this new processor, ROG Strix Scar 17 Special Edition, 2022. This laptop has upgraded processor and applies liquid metal to CPU and GPU. So how does this gaming laptop with the top-end processor perform? Let's check it out. First, take a look at its specs. CPU, Intel i9-12950HX, which belongs to the new H55 series. 8P cores and 8E cores. The GPU is RTX 3080 Ti. Maximum TGP, 175W. 64GB dual-channel DDR5 4800 MHz RAM. 2TB Samsung PM9A1 SSD. All these are top specs. And it has a 17.3-2560x1440, 240Hz, 100% P3, IPS panel. The current price is about $4,049. It has another version, with RTX 3070 Ti, which costs slightly less. The selling point of this laptop lies on the top-end specs. So, let's take a look at its performance. First there comes the latest Intel flagship mobile processor, i9-12950HX, which is created for high-end gaming laptops and mobile workstations. The i9-12950HX has 8P core and 8E core. 2 more P cores than H45, the former top series, and same amount of cores with the desktop series. Looks like it isn't upgraded based on H45, but more like a desktop processor with small changes. For clock speed, looks like nothing new compared to i9-12900H, but the whole H55 series support overclocking. This laptop comes with a pre-overclocking, up to 5.2 GHz for single core. And the L3 cache is increased from 24 MB to 30 MB. But as the performance boosts, TDP also goes up from 45W to 55W. But the iGPU falls behind the H45 series. Only 32 EUs. So it looks more like a desktop processor. Given that this processor usually comes with DGPU, it may not make any difference. Except for the upgrade on CPU, HX series have a huge upgrade on scalability. As we know, the 12th Gen H45, P and U series processors were based on SoC design. The Southbridge is integrated with CPU, but the HX series is closer to the desktop processors. The Southbridge is still on the motherboard. And the H55 series have 16 CPU PCIe 5.0 lanes and 4 PCIe 4.0 lanes. The scalability is on a par with Z690 of the desktop series. Incredible. And the DMI speed has raised to 4.0 times 8, as 4 times as the H45 series. Even if the Southbridge is connected to many devices, it'll barely run out the DMI bandwidth. And H55 series supports 4 RAM slots, and some models support ECC RAM. But as the high-performance series, it only opens to DDR4 and DDR5 RAMs, not to LPDDR. Alright, let's check out how the CPU works. A heads up before we start. This laptop has a pre-overclocking processor, so the score will be a bit higher than i9-12950HX without overclocking. First, single-core performance. This laptop scored 769 in single-threaded Cinebench R20, which is 9% higher than the i9-12900H. In R20 multi-thread test, 65W i9-12950HX is around 10% higher than 65W i9-12900H. The gap narrows, giving 90W, around 7%. It makes greater progress in 7-zip test. The compression rate has 16% growth compared to i9-12900H, and decompression has around 10% growth. In X265 video encoding test, i9-12950HX makes small steps. The score increased by 4% giving 65W, and 2.5% giving 90W. Well, if we limit the power, this is not the best this laptop can do. So we ran it on R20 without power limitation. We can see that the score exceeded 8,000 at the first round, up to 8,298. It dropped after that, but still remains at 7,750. It's basically the highest score in this year. It even rushed to 160W at the first round, and slowly fell back down to 135W. At later rounds, it first reached 130W and then dropped at 120W. P-Core, 3.6 GHz. E-Core, 2.9 GHz. Viewing from the tests, the i9 12950HX is really awesome. I thought H45 i9 and i7 were powerful enough, but Intel showed us a more powerful HX series. Of course, we can't ignore ROG's aggressive performance and pre-overclocking. Anyway, this is a flagship product. After CPU, let's check out GPU. It has a RTX 3080 with a maximum TGP of 175W, which includes 25W dynamic boost. In the turbo mode, the laptop slightly overclocks the GPU. Core clock speed increases by 50 MHz. VRAM, 100 MHz. Typical ASUS, it scored 13,446 in 3D Mark Time SPY. FSE, 16,758. Superposition, 8,516. All credit to the high TGP and pre-overclocking. After the benchmarks, let's take a look at its actual gaming performance. We put it in DGPU mode during tests. For online games, at default 2K resolution, DOTA 2 with ultra settings, 96 FPS. CSGO with lowest settings, 588 FPS. CSGO at 1080p even reaches up to 700 FPS. The flagship specs bring out the nice gaming performance indeed. Then, 3A games. At 2K resolution, Shadow of the Tomb Raider reaches 119 FPS. Metro, 2077 and Total War, Warhammer 3 stay over 60 FPS with ultra settings. GPU is the key part for 3A games. The advantage of overclocking i9 isn't yet notable. Along with games, creation tools can't be neglected. First of all, the Adobe set. PS, 1285. A, 1168. PR, 1234. All are beyond 1000, which breaks the highest record in our database. Seems like 16-core i9 processor and 64GB RAM make an obvious leap on creation tools. Similarly, in the SpecView 2020 test, among all the industrial software, this laptop gets the highest scores. Top specs and aggressive performance did work. So a quick summary. For the impression of Strix Scar 17 Special Edition giving me, I only have one word to describe it. Beast. Its CPU and GPU are both the best in this year. With overclocking in the turbo mode, aggressive performance, 64GB RAM and 2TB SSD, it can nail whatever games or productivity tools. Other than performance, thermals also plays an essential part for gaming laptops. The Strix Scar 17 Special Edition has liquid metal on CPU, GPU and vapor chamber. Switch to the turbo mode, stress FPU. CPU, 95 degrees. Package power, 120W. IA cores power, 113.6W. Stress GPU in turbo mode. GPU, 75.9 degrees, 175W. Dual stress test in turbo mode. CPU, 93 degrees. Package power 55W. IA cores power, 42W. GPU, 80.5 degrees, still 175W. In manual mode, the power distribution had some changes. CPU, 70W, 93 degrees. GPU, 170W, 75.5 degrees. Reached up to 240W in total. Now you can see the exterior temperature. It even did it look like a gaming laptop in stress test. The hottest key, space, only 38.9. And most keys are lower than 35. I thought I made a mistake. I can't believe the result until I touched it with my hand. For noise, in turbo mode, the full load noise is 51.3 decibels. But it'll be more noisy in manual mode, reaching up to 57.3 decibels. Turbo mode is enough for daily use. Generally, Strix Scar 17 Special Edition has nice thermals, which surpasses most of its rivals. In turbo mode, the CPU and GPU total power reaches 230W, meaning that the deluxe combination, liquid metal and vapor chamber, does work. The GPU maintained at 175W in dual stress test, which means the GPU can bring out its best in most times. Even with such high power, it still keeps a very low exterior temperature. Okay, enough with the kick-ass performance and thermals. Let's get back to its exterior. The exterior generally looks like the Strix Scar 15, but adds some stylish design. The invisible ink on the lid is interesting. It can be only seen under the bundled UV hand light in the box. The logo and pattern come from a free FPS game of ROG. The ROG logo, hinges, bezels and keyboard are lit up with RGB lights. Supporting Aura Sync. When it comes to lights, ROG never loses. The base panel is beveled into two parts. From the semi-transparent material on the upper right, the motherboard can be vaguely seen. The ROG logo at the tail has 3 switchable colors. The keystone at the side can save custom setting. As for weight, 2.91 kg. Height, 24.9 to 29.2 mm. A bulky beast. Portable isn't gonna be its selling point, but I think it really gets gaming vibe. But I'm not pleased with 2 issues. One is the wide bottom bezel, and it has no camera, or bundled external cameras. If you suddenly need a video call, that will be embarrassing. The other is the keyboard layout. Although the keyboard feels nice, as a 17 inches gaming laptop, half-height arrow keys? It still has enough space on the base panel that doesn't get to use. It's kind of a waste. Perhaps they put the exterior design in the first place? As for ports, on the left, 2 USB 3.2 General 1 Type A and one 3.5mm audio combo jack. At the back, there's one Thunderbolt 4, one USB 3.2 General 2 full-featured Type C, one HDMI 2.1 and one RJ45 Ethernet port. I think the ports are a bit less for a large-screen gaming laptop. Let's go on with screen. The panel comes from BO. Tested color volume, 105.8% P3. Color coverage, 98.8% P3. For color accuracy, it comes with a color calibration file, but performs not that surprisingly. Average E, 1.65. Max E, 4.99. It mainly shows much deviation in blue. Peak brightness, 294 nits. Just okay. Black to white response time, 8.3 milliseconds. Gray to gray response time, 11.8 milliseconds. Moreover, it can also enable overdrive and the black to white response time remain the same, while the GTG reduced to 4.9 milliseconds. It's very quick, but when overdrive is on, it'll cause overshoot to gray, and further ghosting. Overall, color gamut, resolution and refresh rate are all great, but color accuracy and brightness are not satisfying. The screen is totally enough for gaming, but could meet higher demand for color accuracy. Finally, we can't miss our tradition, disassembly. It's easy to disassemble it. Unscrew the bottom and remove the panel. Now you can see the thermal system, 2 fans and an extensive vapor chamber. 2 assistant heat pipes are below the fans. It uses liquid metal instead of silicone grease, so you won't face the thermal paste aging problem. But the liquid metal module is limited to CPU and 3080T. The 3070T still use silicone. The 232GB DDR5 4800 MHz RAMs come from Hynix. The RAM benchmark is eye-catching. The read-write speeds are around 70,000. Latency, 85 nanoseconds, which outshines the DDR5 gaming laptops we tested before. That's because the 32GB DDR5 has 2 ranks. That explains the extreme high frame rate in the CSGO test. To the left of the RAM is 2TB Samsung PM9A1 SSD. PCIe 4.0x4. The SSD has massive 140GB SLC cache, which still keeps 1500 MB per second write speed without caching. It also makes room for an extra M.2 SSD. The Wi-Fi card lays below the SSD. It's Intel AX211, supporting Wi-Fi 6E. The 90 Wh battery is at the lowest place. In automatic mode, it lasts 4 hours and 4 minutes in PC Mark 10 Modern Office. If you turn on the iGPU mode, the battery life will extend to 5 hours and 45 minutes. Such a beast gaming laptop is usually plugged in to use. I'm sure you've learned about this laptop so far. As usual, 3 pros and cons will be listed for reference. Pros first. Number 1. It comes with liquid metal on GPU, CPU. Aggressive performance. This laptop has top-end CPU specs and crazy performance. Liquid metal on CPU, GPU improves thermals and performance, and avoids thermal paste aging. Number 2. Low temperature under heavy load. Along with the good performance, it also has great heat insulation. Most keys are below 35 in dual stress test, just like most gaming laptops in standby mode. It feels rather cool. Number 3. Large capacity of RAM and SSD. It comes with 64GB RAM and 2TB SSD. No matter 3A games or design tasks, this laptop can take it easily. Capacity won't be a problem. Even if you don't need it, such a large capacity feasts your eyes. After the pros, let's go on with the cons. Number 1. No camera and wide bottom bezel. Due to the pandemic, many people need to attend online courses or meetings, but this laptop goes without camera. Even without a camera, it doesn't narrow the bottom bezel. There is still some way to go on screen to body ratio. Number 2. Improper keyboard layout with half-height arrow keys. As a 17 inches gaming laptop with a large screen, the arrow keys are half-height. I wish I can see a full-height arrow keys in the next general. Number 3. Not much ports. 2 Type A and 2 Type C ports are enough actually, but many competitors has 1 more type of port, or even 2 more Type A. Considering its size, I think it needs more ports. In general, Strix Scar 17 Special Edition is kick-ass awesome, brilliant thermals and crazy performance. It is a worthy flagship gaming laptop. I was having all the fun with it. Well, for the weakness, the absence of camera and the half-height arrow keys discourages me. I hope ROG can work hard on exterior design. I will recommend it to those with a deep pocket, and in pursuit of extreme performance, and without high demand for portability. Viewing from the tests, compared to Strix Scar 15, Strix Scar 17 Special Edition mainly improves the CPU, thermals and exterior build, and provides larger RAM and SSD. The decision depends on your budget. Alright, that's all for this video. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this video. Don't forget to subscribe and share. If you want to talk with me, please follow us on WeChat official account. I will talk about a laptop there every day. This laptop may be a good deal, maybe not, but all we want is to provide info and guidance. This is BIBA Laptops. I'm Jawan. See you next time.